Welcome to the Hack Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Barnes, providing right now solutions to some of your biggest teaching and learning problems. Now, let's hack learning. Today we are talking about 3 guaranteed ways to improve teaching and learning tomorrow. And fix it tomorrow strategies is really what we do in Hack Learning. Hack Learning was born from a single blog post a couple of years back, followed up by some conversation on social media. In this post that I wrote on the Brilliant or Insane blog, you can find a link to it on the show notes page at hacklearningpodcast.com. That post promised immediate improvement to teaching and learning if principals made a few simple changes. The key to success for that blog post was the idea that you could solve problems tomorrow, without the old 5-year plan. You see, most educators say there are very few fixes at all in education, fast or slow. Almost every solution to any education problem is something that is sent to committee, then to senior administrators, before being relegated to some 5-year plan. We know that a lot of those never come to fruition. Well, about 2 years after that initial blog post, there are 5 Hack Learning series books and other Hack Learning content that provide one quick fix after another. I know maybe you're skeptical. You say, is there really a quick fix? Maybe you need some evidence. Maybe you haven't seen a Hack Learning series book, but I hope you have, and you can learn all about them at hacklearning.org. So what I want to do today, though, and we do this periodically, is say let's employ that fix-it-tomorrow mentality that Hack Learning is founded on, and let's give some tips or tools or guarantees to make you better. I want to provide 3 guaranteed ways to improve teaching and learning tomorrow. They work because I've done them, and I've done them successfully, and that's why I can guarantee them. And they are fixes that many people have done, and they've reported back to me through Twitter, Facebook, blogs, emails, or face-to-face conversations and said, yeah, I did this, and it's amazing. Here we go, and you're going to be able to find these on the show notes page at hacklearningpodcast.com. Just look for our 3 guaranteed tips episode. And here we go. The first guaranteed way to improve teaching and learning tomorrow. Imagine a drum roll in your head because I don't have my sound effects up right now. Number 1 is teach reflection. Now, on the surface, this appears to be an obvious strategy, right? You might say, okay, well, I do that already. But I want you to think about what you do because, unfortunately, teaching reflection, is one of the most overlooked practices any classroom teacher can use. And first of all, let's consider the elements of a typical lesson. So if you just think of any class, any grade level, your typical lesson involves some sort of direct instruction, some interaction with kids, maybe Q&A or a lot of different things where the teacher interacts with the students during the lesson. Then there's some practice. All too often, that's the form of a worksheet, and we've done hacking worksheets. You can find that on our show notes page. We don't want that, but we do practice. And then we observe what's going on, and we assess, and then we have some sort of closure, right? While there are a lot of variations of this format for a typical lesson, what's often left out, and it's mainly due to the lack of time. Teachers say there's not time, is reflection and self-evaluation. I want to show you how to overcome that. We also, in Hack Learning series books, we have a section called pushback. So I just gave you the pushback. People will say, I don't have time to go through all of the elements in my standard lesson and then to have my students reflect or self-evaluate. So here's how you do it. The best way is to plan reflection into every single lesson. Add in reflection or self-evaluation. Okay, so you say, well, if I teach 40 minutes, how can I do it? Well, here's the key. Give your students a space to write, and maybe a blog, a social network, Twitter, a place like Today's Meet is fabulous. We've talked about Today's Meet in other episodes. Even a notebook. Now, plan as little as 5 minutes at the end of class for this process. So just etch it in. It's a part of your daily routine. Now, if you're really being efficient, you can also combine some other activity that takes up time and use it during this time. Maybe it's taking attendance or checking something on your class roster. If you've collected activities, you're checking them in. Maybe you need to sidle up to a student and have an individual conversation. These last 5 minutes of class can be great for that, because what you're going to do is you're having students reflect, and they're writing this. So it should be a quiet time, and give your students questions to answer, because that'll help them. And eventually they'll get very good at this and they won't need much guidance. But you just ask, what did I learn? Why is this important? What, if anything, is unclear? How can I explain this in under a minute? So think about summarizing, to say, I could give back what I learned today in under a minute if I have to. You can call that like the old elevator pitch. Kids like that. Can you pitch it to me in a minute or less? And that's really helpful. You will find that this kind of reflection, which you can do in about 5 minutes, and you can take care of some other menial tasks while it's going on, unless it's interacting with a kid. That's not menial. It's important. But you can do this every day, and it will improve teaching and learning immensely, and that's a guarantee. All right, so teach reflection, guaranteed 1, to improve teaching and learning. 2, connect to like-minded people. See, this isn't all just in-class activities or assignments or pedagogy. We want to get better in teaching and learning. And one way you, as an educator, can get better as a learner is to connect. So what do? You find like-minded people. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to clone your brain and think exactly as you do, but they're people that have similar interests. Maybe you find people, if you're an English teacher, who also teach English or reading. And again, that's not a mandatory thing. Maybe your like-minded people are just other educators. Maybe you're an administrator and the like-minded people you find are principals. And what you want to do is find these people on social media. Find them on Twitter. Find them on LinkedIn. Find them on Facebook. There's so many amazing groups. I know we've talked about this before. There's many great groups on Facebook, and you can just search, and you'll find great things. If you're not on Voxer, get on Voxer. Go to Voxer.com or download Voxer in your app store. I talk about Voxer a ton. It's such a powerful tool because it's voice interaction, and it's recorded, and you can still text and drop in videos and images and links, and you can build a small tribe. Find some people who may be colleagues in your building, maybe at conferences, and invite them to join you in a group. And there's so much tutorial out there. You can find stuff at hacklearning.org, in fact, if you search for Voxer there. And start sharing. Start asking questions. Reflect. Vent. What a great thing to find people that, you can share your frustrations, because they have them too. You can celebrate, share victories, but most important, find out things that maybe you don't know that they do, and share what you know that they don't. And that is really powerful, and it makes you better. I learn so much every day from my tribe. People who share great content, and a few of the groups that I'm in on Voxer, I talk to those people all the time, and it's great. That's a guarantee, and you could start today. So guarantee number 3 to improve teaching and learning, decompress. How about that one simple word? I know, I see shoulders shrugging, eyebrows furrowing, groaning perhaps. Think about this. As educators, we're constantly on the go, and our stress level is high. If you're an administrator, if you're a classroom teacher, if you're listening to this and you're a parent and not a teacher, you've got the same kind of stress because you have so much responsibility. You deal with children. You're responsible for their safety. If you're an educator, you feel pressure from administrators and from parents. If you're a parent, you maybe feel pressure that you're not meeting the needs of your child. And the people who wind up leaving the profession, and you know that the average teacher now, I think the last study I read was under 4 years. The average teacher lasts less than 4 years in the classroom before they move on to something else because they're too stressed. They can't take it. If you can't deal with that and your stress builds, ultimately you leave. Or worse, something bad happens to you health-wise. So the key is to decompress. I'll tell you a story that's really important for me. When I started, I was one of the people who worked all the time. and I worked through lunch. Planning periods were crazy with planning, grading, making phone calls home, on the go. There was never a moment of peace. One day, a teacher, a friend, came into my room and asked me to join him in the faculty lounge for lunch or something, and I said, oh no, I always eat in my room. And something really amazing happened. He said, you have to decompress. You have to get away from the chaos or it's going to kill you. And maybe not literally, in some cases perhaps, but I don't think he meant literally. What he meant was that idea that you won't last. You'll maybe leave. And again, this, if you're not an educator and you're listening, thank you, first of all. But whatever you're in, the same kinds of stresses and anxiety happen in all professions. And often we have health problems or we wind up quitting and doing something else because we can't deal with the stress. And it's because we don't take time to decompress. And this is so simple. So the first thing I recommend to decompress is meditation. Now, I was told a long time ago by someone in the healthcare profession that I should meditate, and I scoffed. I was like, that's not me. And I started reading about it. In fact, I read a book one summer, and it was all about meditation and how to do it. And it wasn't so much philosophical. It was just like, here's what you do. And what I loved about it is, it didn't say you have to sit in the lotus position and, heavens knows I can't bend my knees like that. It was all about just getting comfortable, getting to a quiet place, and focusing your thoughts away from the chaos. And that's what you do when you meditate. And I would recommend that you find a book that you like. And you should just search on Amazon and give it a try. You don't have to sit in a strange position. You don't have to meditate for an hour or even 20 minutes. So that's one thing, is a lot of people have the wrong idea about meditation. And a lot of great, successful people meditate. I think it's fantastic to just decompress, to take 5 minutes, start there. And if you want to put on soft music, you can do that. If you want music, you don't have to. The idea is to stop thinking about everything else outside of just where you are and who you are at that moment. Deep breaths in and out, think about the breathing, focus there, and try and clear your mind, and you will feel so much better. Now, if you just say, there's no way, I'm never going to do meditation, that's okay too, but take time to stop working. Rest. Just sit down. If you enjoy reading and it makes you relax, find some pleasure reading and read for a little while. Close your eyes. You can close your eyes without sleeping. But the key is get away from the chaos, from the stress of your day, put it out of your mind, decompress. If you do this, you're guaranteed to be better. You'll be a better teacher and learner tomorrow. There you go. These are Fix It Tomorrow, guaranteed ways to improve teaching and learning. Teach reflection, connect to like-minded people, and decompress. And if you do these things, I guarantee you will be better tomorrow. Let me know what you're doing. Come on our show notes page at hacklearningpodcast.com. Join this conversation. Tweet at us at #hacklearning. Talk about it on our Facebook page. And tell us what you're doing. Tell us what you're skeptical about. Feel free to push back, because we do that as well. We deal with pushback. We love the conversations. The conversations make us better. As always, we continue the conversation at #hacklearning on Twitter and on the show notes page at hacklearningpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time. The Hack Learning Podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Check it out today.